Wow, Sue, this is so great to have seen your progression with Hendrik over the course of the show season. And that's a wonderful score and a very, very nice test. Great improvements. And I still think there's a lot more horse in there and a lot higher scores to be had. The general impression, as far as the one big thing you could do to make your scores higher, is that often his chin is too far in. And so you can think about a couple of things. Number one, soften your pinky finger, your baby finger, forward. Number two, keep your hands forward and down. So you need to think about allowing him to come forward with his nose. So even if throughout the whole test you just rode that exact same test and you just said as a little mantra, thinking about your hands, forward and down, or forward toward the mouth, forward toward the mouth, forward toward the mouth, so that you don't come behind the work area and steal from the hind legs. And also, as a result of bringing your hands back, he brings the chin in, and that makes him look a little too short in the neck, a little too restricted. So just simply changing that one thing, that gives you one thing, main thing to focus on, to put your hands forward, forward, forward throughout the entire ride, and hold him from being too fast with your back rather than holding him with the reins. That's going to bring you up into the 70% for sure. So that's the main thing. That gives you one focus. Forward with the hands, pinky finger forward, soften with your hands toward his mouth. And then let's just talk about some of the other detail stuff that once you have that sorted out in your mind, as far as riding him from your back and keeping the hands forward toward his mouth so he can bring his chin more forward, then as you polish the rest of this stuff, the scores are going to go up even higher. So just some general impressions so that I can just give you shorthand when we go through the test. As you were entering, I noticed it looked either that your left stirrup was longer, or it looks longer because you're sitting off to the left and pulling the saddle over to the left. So make sure that your stirrups are the same length. And if you feel like the saddle is shifting to the left, step down into your right iron like you're dismounting off the right side of your horse. Another thing that I see is that when you ask for your lengthening in the trot, and by the way, you are getting better lengthenings, a little bit lower with the neck will allow him to lengthen even more. But the thing that I notice is that it looks like you just take him by surprise when you come onto the diagonal. You just close your legs and blast. You need to prepare for the lengthening by starting your connecting aids when you're up by C, for example. Close your legs, close your outside hand, keep them flexed to the inside, and then just blend those connecting aids into allowing him to lengthen. And maybe think about developing your lengthening over 2 or 3 strides rather than just blasting and taking him by surprise. The next thing that I see is that he needs to be straighter in his neck in the leg yields. Now, it's more obvious when you leg yield away from your left leg because that's his hollow side. He overbends his neck a lot to the left. So I would ride the leg yield away from your left leg in counterflexion. Flex him to the right so that you keep his neck straight. And even if you think about doing that in competition, you're not going to get counterflexion. But if you ride it as if you're riding in counterflexion, his neck will be straight. When you leg yield away from your right leg, it's not as obvious because his right side is his stiff side, but there's still a little bend in the neck. So I would just think about riding without any flexion left or right. Just keep his face lined up in the middle, where his chin would be lined up in the middle of his chest. And that's what I would do with the leg yields. Now, another thing that I see is often when you're making a correction, either he's looking at something and he's going to shy, or you're preparing for a movement, you use your hand before you use your leg. So this is a new habit I want you to get into. Whatever you're doing, leg first, then hand. When you start the leg yield, like look at that leg yield away from your right leg. Start with your leg, and then if you have to add your hand at all, do that. You started it more with your hand. So leg, then hand. Then the transition, well, there are no transitions back from your lengthening in the canter. So what I would do at home is practice lengthening in the canter, and you don't have to do the whole long side, just do 5, 6, 7 strides, and halt from your back and your outside rein and your upper leg. By closing your upper leg, you're stilling your seat. So upper legs, outside hand, lengthen canter to halt, then soften the reins and pet him. Then go forward again, lengthen canter to halt, soften the reins and pet him. So that when you do it for real, you can lengthen and then just stretch up and give a little tweak, squeeze, release on the outside rein, and he comes back to you from the lengthened canter from a very polite aid. But make sure that you do have your legs on, otherwise he might break to the trot. But you're losing points because you just sort of fly through the corner in sort of a lengthened canter rather than showing a clear transition at the end of that long side. You still need to work on better bend to the right. It's especially obvious when you're cantering on your circle to the right and going through those corners to the right, and you go to your hand first instead of your leg. Always think that when you're tracking to the right and circling to the right or going through a corner to the right, that you could keep your right leg on the girth and leg yield out to the next largest curve. So if you're cantering on a 20-meter circle, pretend you could leg yield with a bend out to a 21-meter circle that he gives in his rib cage around your leg. Think more with your leg and less with your hand. And then, he gets going really fast in the canter, and you're sort of holding him to keep from charging around the arena. And what happens if you hold him, besides his neck becoming too short, is he's going to numb out to the feeling. He won't feel you anymore, and he can just keep charging through the bridle like that. So you want to be able, if you have to check him, give a sharp check with your seat, your legs, and your outside rein. Check him, but then give, and then check him again, and then give. You have to soften. If you hold with a continuous holding, a continuous aid, he's not going to feel you anymore, and your arms are going to get exhausted, and he's going to continue to run through the bridle. I do want to also say that you're doing much, much better with your stretchy circle in the trot. You're getting there. It needs to be a little more consistent, but you're getting a much better stretching forward, down, and out, and your free walk was absolutely fabulous. You got him to take the rein forward, down, and out right from the beginning. So in a second here, I'm going to start your test so that we can go through it together, and that way I'll be able to just talk in shorthand since I've already explained a lot of the major things. Okay, you're just coming into the arena. You can see your hands are a little too high. Your left stirrup looks longer than your right stirrup. It might just be that the saddle is off to the left. Nice halt. Very nice prompt move off to the trot. Beautiful. And you're finishing the trot down the center line. Low hands forward toward the mouth like a mantra. Low hands forward toward the mouth so his chin can come more forward and his nose in front of the vertical. Now that little hoppy step into the lengthening was because it didn't look like you prepared for the lengthening with your connecting aids in the corner. You want to blend. Think of the word blend. From C all the way through the corner. Be giving your connecting aids, and then keep the connecting aids, but allow the energy to go into the lengthening as you come to the diagonal. You're starting your 10-meter circle, and his chin is 2 in. So soften your pinky finger forward and allow the nose to come out. Now you're starting your leg yield. I would ask for right flexion so that he doesn't bend at the base of his neck and pop his shoulders out to the right. Yeah, it needs to be straighter in the neck with that leg yield. And again, your mantra, forward with the hands, forward with the hands. That's good with his neck in the second corner. It's lower. And then you brought the hands back toward the saddle before the lengthening. And I didn't see any connecting aids to prepare for that lengthening either. Now you're on the short side. His chin is 2 in as you turn onto the center line. There's that mantra again, low and forward with the hands. Same thing on the 10-meter circle. Pretend the reins are two sticks and you're pushing his chin forward. You're going to get so many more points if you can get his nose about 5 degrees in front of the vertical. Now you start the leg yield, and I see you pull with an indirect inside right rein before you ask him to go sideways. Do that leg yield with no flexion, and use your leg and your body weight as opposed to the rein. And here you're using an indirect right rein to keep him on the track by the corner before the free walk. Use your leg first and then back it up with the rein, not the other way around. Starting the free walk, really, really huge improvement in getting him to go forward, down, and out right from the beginning of the diagonal. Now he gets inattentive toward the end of the diagonal, so you need to apply your connecting aids as you bring him back to your medium walk. So rather than just kicking with your left leg, press with both legs, close your right hand in a fist with your right hand out in front of you. I can see your right hand on your right thigh here. And ask him to look to the left, not out toward the woods. And in the trot before the canter, he needs to go much more forward because it was a little bit of a piddly trot here. The only way he can get into the canter is lift his croup like that. So you need to allow him to go forward into a nice big trot before you ask for the canter. Looks like the circle was a good size. Good cantering with your arms, but rock your body backwards. Too much bend in the neck to the left. In the lengthening, think no flexion to the left. That's his hollow side, so you have to expect that he's going to try to bend his neck, and then you're going to practice those down transitions from the canter lengthening at home so you can get a transition. Upper body rocking behind the vertical. Hard to tell from the camera angle, but this first shallow loop, it looks like the first half of it was too big. The top of the loop should just be grazing X. It looks like you went beyond X. Relax your knees and your lower leg as you canter through the short side and onto the diagonal. Your hands are too high and back on the diagonal, low and forward with the hands. Bend him with your right leg and leg yield him into the corner in the canter. And have the feeling as you canter on this 10-meter circle that you're leg yielding with a bend out to a 21-meter circle. So he isn't leaning on your right leg and on his right shoulder. Starting the lengthening. Nice, bold effort in the lengthening, but needing to show a transition back, which you're going to work at home with the short canter lengthenings to halt transitions. Pulling back with the hands there, low and forward with the hands. Allow the nose to come out. He's a little strong here. Check him and give. Check him and give. Don't just hold continuously. He's not going to feel you. That second shallow loop looked like it was better geometry, but he's falling on your right leg in the corner after H and before M. And he's running too fast under the diagonal. Check him with the outside rein, and then give even if you think you can't. You need to be able to give in order for him to feel the next half halt. And now you're starting your stretchy circle. You're on the incorrect diagonal, which makes it hard for him. Yeah. And some good stretchy moments. It needs to be more consistent. Just keep layering those connecting aids one on top of another. But I like that he's lowering his neck more than he has in the past and opening his throat latch and bringing his nose forward. So that's very good. Good. And let's turn down the center line. He's in a nice shape. Yeah, now you don't look like your left stirrup is shorter, so I'm thinking the saddle was just, your left stirrup was longer. I'm thinking the saddle was just shifted off that way. So just be aware of that. So good job, you.